Imagine this. You don't need to chase anyone. You don't need to try to be interesting or say what people want to hear. With just one sentence, simple, timely, and precise, you can make a woman pause and see you differently. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're not like the rest. This video is not here to teach you how to flirt. It's a transformation of communication mindset, a key to speak less but touch deeper, to walk with presence instead of chasing approval. If you've ever felt overlooked, placed in the friend zone, or noticed that women only remember you when they need something, then maybe you haven't yet learned the language of true masculine energy. Today, you won't learn 6 phrases to make women fall for you. You'll learn how to become the kind of man a woman remembers, even when you're no longer there. And once you understand this, you'll no longer need to impress, because your presence alone is enough. So sit down, focus, and let me show you the difference between words and words that carry weight. Are you ready? Part 1. The power of words. Awakening emotion, not just creating impression. In today's world, where everything is reduced to headlines, profile pictures, and heart reactions, people are more and more often judged by appearance, resumes, and job titles, things that are visible but not necessarily true. In that context, a simple sentence that hits the emotional core becomes rare, almost a luxury. Not because you're good-looking, not because you drive a new Tesla, not because you can recite Rumi's poetry or make clever jokes. What makes a woman pause and see you differently is sometimes just a sentence spoken at the right moment, in the right way, from the right soul. A sentence, if sincere enough and spoken at the right time, can become a bridge from the mind straight to the heart. The story from Brooklyn. I remember an afternoon in Brooklyn, in a small cafe on the corner, where 2 people were deep in conversation. John, a freelance writer, casually dressed, calm eyes, not the type to turn heads on the street. Lisa, a young painter, hair tied up, wearing Bluetooth headphones, but her entire face lit up when she talked about art. She described how she painted an empty room, not just with lines and color, but with the feeling she wanted the room to evoke. A gentle nostalgia, a soulful silence. And John, instead of rushing to say, "That's a beautiful painting," like most people would, simply looked at her, nodded slowly and said, "You have a unique way of seeing the world. That's really captivating." Lisa was silent for 2 seconds, but in that silence, something shifted. She smiled. Not the smile of someone being flattered, but the smile of someone who just felt seen. Like an instrumental melody that suddenly played in tune with her own. Why does one sentence have such power? Because women, like all of us, live in an age flooded with superficiality. She might get 300 likes for a single photo, but how many people really see her? Most compliments today are automatic. "Wow, you're gorgeous. You look amazing. You're such a vibe." All of them sound like they're from the same template, generated by a machine. They're easy to hear and just as easy to forget. A compliment only holds value when it makes someone pause and wonder, why did he say that to me? When you say something that touches emotion, like, "You have a unique way of seeing the world," you're not just complimenting, you're opening a doorway to discovery. She'll ask herself, what did he see in me? Was it how I told that story? My laugh? My tone? You've planted a question in her mind, and that's exactly where attraction begins. The subtlety of sincere calm, what gives a sentence its weight, is not just the words, but the way you say them. You can't say it like someone rehearsing lines. You can't blurt it out like a pickup technique. Its strength lies in slowness, in eye contact, in the fact that you genuinely saw something and couldn't help but name it. Not to impress her, but because you couldn't not say it. A man who's remembered isn't the one who talks best, but the one who knows when to stay silent before saying what matters. In Stoic philosophy, there's a principle. Don't aim to influence. Live as someone who has influence. The well-timed sentence is a silent act of presence. It makes a woman feel like she's next to someone who sees, who feels, and who knows the power of stillness. Emotional connection is the hardest thing to fake. You may have seen this in long-term couples. They don't talk much, but when one tells a story, the other still smiles like they're hearing it for the first time. They don't need grand words, just a look or a simple sentence. You're still the one who makes me pause. That's not a trick, that's presence. And presence is what women remember. They might forget what you wore in that tailored suit, but they won't forget the feeling of being seen and understood. Philosophy. Speak little but see deep in a world where everyone tries to say more to get noticed. A man who speaks less but deeper becomes a rare thing. Not because he knows magic, but because he doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't compliment to score. He doesn't flatter to win. He simply reflects back what he sees as beautiful, not on the outside but within. When you make a woman feel special, not for her looks but for her essence, you've just opened a door straight to her soul. Conclusion: a well-timed sentence doesn't create magic. It reveals the magic, which was already there in the other person, waiting for someone to truly notice. And that's what you can bring to every conversation. No technique required, just presence and awareness. In a world where people talk to be heard, be the one who knows how to pause before speaking. In a world where everyone sees each other through screens, be the one who sees through the eyes. A well-timed sentence might not change the world, but it can change the way someone sees you, forever. Part 2. I like women who know what they want. There's something strange about modern dating. People often begin with the question, how can I be liked? Instead of asking, what kind of person do I truly like? Most men, when they meet an attractive woman, immediately slip into the mindset of trying to win her over. They smile more, agree with things they don't truly believe in, and compliment her in the same way thousands of other men already have. They think that if they're sweet enough, kind enough, accommodating enough, she'll stay. But what they don't realize is, the moment you try to fit someone else, you begin to lose the shape of your true self. The story from San Francisco at a startup conference in San Francisco, among flashy slides, bold ideas, and half-confident, half-guarded handshakes, there was a quiet conversation. Sophia, 29 years old, co-founder of a health tech startup, was sharing with Alex why she turned down a large investment. They wanted to steer the product in a direction I didn't agree with. I knew it would be profitable, but I also knew it wouldn't be the thing I wanted to build anymore. Alex smiled, not the kind of smile that says, I admire how smart you are, but the kind that says, I know that feeling. He looked at her and said quietly, I like women who know what they want. Sophia didn't respond right away, but her eyes changed. She didn't just see someone who listened, she saw someone who valued her clarity. Not because she was pleasing him, but because she was standing firm in who she was. A compliment or a challenge? That sentence, on the surface, sounds like a compliment. But at its core, it's a gentle challenge. Not a challenge to change, but a challenge to stay true to what one believes. When you say you like people who know what they want, you're revealing a principle you live by. And that principle itself is magnetic. In a world where people are easily swayed by opinions, those who can stand firm in the winds of ambiguity, social pressure, or fear of rejection, shine in a quiet way. And when you acknowledge that, not with judgment but with deep respect, you don't just attract someone. You recalibrate the balance of power silently. The attractiveness of being selective. The man who says this line isn't trying to conquer. He's observing, selecting. And that flips the script. It's no longer, am I attractive enough for her to choose me? It becomes, is she living true enough to herself for me to want to stay? A man with standards isn't someone who nitpicks. He's someone who is clear enough not to waste energy on what's uncertain. When you say, "I like women who know what they want," you're not flattering. You're signaling that you're that kind of person too, clear, directional, and not floating along the currents of fleeting emotion. And that's what makes you attractive. Not because you have what others don't, but because you dare to be real and demand the same from others. How to say it so it carries weight timing is key. You don't say this when she's unsure about what to order at a restaurant. But if she's just told you that she left a high-paying job to pursue art, or said no to a relationship that made her lose herself, that is your moment. And don't say it as if you're evaluating her. Say it as if you've just discovered something precious. That's not blind admiration, it's respect. I like women who know what they want. Say it slowly. Don't grin wide. Don't follow it up with a joke. Just hold your presence, like you've just seen a light flicker inside her. Personal reflection. I've seen many intelligent men slip into a mode of self-adjustment just to be accepted. They forget that real attraction doesn't come from how well you can match someone else, but from whether you dare to maintain your own shape. In relationships, clarity is a form of courage, and women who know what they want, they're not looking for men to follow their lead. They're looking for someone strong enough to walk beside them. So when you say this line, you're showing her that you're sharp enough to recognize something rare and brave enough to ask for it. Conclusion. The sentence, "I like women who know what they want," is not just a compliment. It's a declaration from a man who lives with intention. It carries discernment, awareness, and a kind of pull that makes others pause and ask themselves, "Am I clear enough to walk alongside a man like that?" And that's not a game. It's a standard, a quiet metric for mature relationships, where no one has to chase, but both choose to walk toward what's real. Part 3. That's what I like most about you. There's a very real truth that's rarely spoken. Most compliments women receive every day only skim the surface. You're so pretty. You look amazing. Your smile is cute. These words aren't wrong. They can bring a moment of joy. But then what? They drift away like butterflies in early summer. Light, lovely, but leaving no lasting depth. That's why when a man looks at a woman and says, "That's what I like most about you," and it's not about her dress or lipstick, but something deeper, everything shifts. The story from Los Angeles at an outdoor charity event in Los Angeles, between rows of plastic chairs, meals for the homeless, and sunlight resting on the shoulders of quiet volunteers, David met Rachel. Rachel didn't dress to stand out. She wore a loose shirt, had her hair tied back, and her hands were constantly busy with food, water, and wet wipes for others. No one noticed her. No one took her photo. She just worked, quietly. When the event ended, they sat resting under the shade of a tree. Rachel shared why she kept joining these programs, because her father, an alcoholic, had wandered the streets for years, and she knew what it felt like to be forgotten. David looked at her and said, "That's what I like most about you. The way you don't talk much, but you do so much." Rachel turned away and said nothing, but her eyes, for the first time that day, softened. Why does this sentence carry such depth? Because it's not a compliment. It's recognition. It's proof that you truly see something others overlook. When a woman feels seen, not with the eyes but with the heart, she begins to open up. The phrase, "That's what I like most about you," holds power because it names one specific thing you value. Not a generic, "You're amazing," but, "I like the way you protect your little brother with your whole heart. I like the light in your eyes when you talk about your dreams." Or like David said, "I like how you quietly do what's right." That specificity is proof you're not glancing. You're present. The difference between one who compliments and one who feels. A man who knows how to compliment is observant, but a man who knows how to feel sees into someone's truth. A woman might receive hundreds of compliments each month, but she will only remember the one who once said, "I like how you smile when you talk about your mom. It's pure." Because that compliment didn't come from technique. It came from sincerity. Not from a desire to win, but from a place of respect. When should you say this? Not every moment is the right time. If you say it too early, it will sound like a tactic. If you say it without care, it'll feel like a rehearsed trick. Wait for something real. When she giggles awkwardly after telling a childhood story. When she speaks quietly about a dream that still feels far away. When she's not trying to impress, but something deeply human shines through. That's when you say it. Slowly, gently, just once. "That's what I like most about you." And let that sentence drift into silence. Because it's within the silence that emotion is truly felt. Personal reflection. I believe what makes a man truly memorable in a woman's eyes isn't his appearance, wealth, or poetic words. It's his emotional selectivity. He doesn't hand out praise loosely. He doesn't compliment out of obligation. He praises when he sees something real, and he's brave enough to name it. That kind of courage is rare. And because it's rare, it's precious. Like the last rays of sunlight through a window at dusk, not blinding, but impossible to ignore. The sentence as a mirror. The phrase, "That's what I like most about you," doesn't just make a woman feel appreciated. It makes her see herself from a perspective she never noticed before. It's how you hold up a mirror to her and say, "This is you," when you're not trying, when you're simply real. And that's what I like most. And that shift from someone being looked at to someone being truly seen is a subtle but deeply magnetic transformation. It's the root of true connection. Conclusion: a woman may not remember what you gave her, but she will remember the sentence you said in a moment no one else noticed, especially if that sentence touched the part of her she thought no one ever saw. That's what I like most about you. Not a tactic, not a move to win, but a quiet confirmation. I'm listening, I'm present, and that makes you unforgettable. Part 4. I'm not sure you can handle me. There are some sentences that don't need to be long, but they open up an entire world. Not because they flatter, not because they hint at romance, but because they evoke something rare, a quiet sense of challenge beneath a calm exterior. When a man looks into a woman's eyes, not anxious, not hesitant, and smiles gently as he says, "I'm not sure you can handle me," suddenly, all the rules of the game shift. The story from Austin, Texas. Once attended an indie concert in Austin, a small venue, warm amber lights, strangers sitting on wooden chairs, sipping bourbon and getting lost in the music. In the crowd, there was a couple talking. Olivia, a freelance photographer, bold, short-haired, tattooed. She spoke fast, looked directly into your eyes, and had just finished teasing, "You must be someone special if you've got me interested." Ethan, a software engineer recently relocated from Colorado, smiled. He didn't laugh out loud. He didn't rush to reply. He simply tilted his head, raised his glass, and said softly, "I'm not sure you can handle me." No further explanation, no flashy reaction. Just a confident, calm gaze and silence. Olivia paused for a second. In his eyes, she didn't see someone trying to impress her. She saw a man who knew exactly who he was and wasn't afraid of being misunderstood. The sentence as a subtle metaphor. It's not a boast. It's not, "I'm amazing" or "I'm too complex." It's an invitation to step into unfamiliar terrain, a space that can't be figured out easily, a path with no shortcuts. "I'm not sure you can handle me" means, I have depth, I have principles, I have both light and shadow. I don't tame easily, and not everyone is strong enough to stay. This sentence opens a space of mystery, and when mystery meets groundedness, it becomes one of the most powerful forms of attraction. Attraction comes from being unpredictable. Many men think that to be liked, they need to be easy to understand, easy to be around, easy to please. But that usually leads to one ironic outcome. They become easy to forget. Attraction doesn't come from being predictable. It comes from holding more than what you show, without ever needing to prove it. The man who says this sentence isn't trying to control the dynamic. He's simply making sure that whoever steps into his life isn't there just for his ease. When should you say this? Not when she's opening up about a painful story. Not when you're trying too hard to be interesting. This sentence doesn't fit moments that require gentleness or empathy. Say it when there's light teasing between you, when there's a subtle, playful provocation, when she challenges you with something like, "What makes you think you're that special?" That's when you respond, slowly, firmly, with no explanation. "I'm not sure you can handle me." Let the silence that follows do the rest, because that silence is where the magic lives. Personal reflection. I believe that in every man with depth, there's a part of him he doesn't easily share. Not because he's hiding, but because he knows. If someone isn't sensitive and strong enough, they won't understand, and they might end up hurting him. So letting someone in is a decision, not a reaction. And this sentence, "I'm not sure you can handle me," is a discreet way of saying, "I'm not an easy challenge." But if you're patient enough, you might discover something very few ever have. It's not a game, it's a boundary. You don't say this to be cool. You don't use it as a tactic. You say it because you truly live by it. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You don't need to be the likable version of yourself to be loved. You are who you are, whole, complete, unapologetically present. The right woman won't be scared off by that sentence. In fact, she'll be drawn to it. Because in the end, what women seek isn't simplicity. It's a man whose trust, when given, truly means something. Conclusion. I'm not sure you can handle me. It sounds like a challenge, but in truth, it's an invitation. Are you willing to step into my real world? No glamour, no shortcuts. But if you're brave enough, you might be the first to truly understand it. And sometimes all a woman needs is to hear that sentence from a man who means it, to know that she wants to stay. Part 5. I'm not that easy. In today's world, where everything moves at lightning speed, from text messages to relationships, people often confuse quickness with readiness. And many men with just a little attention from a beautiful woman rush to give away their time, energy, emotions, even their self-respect. I'm not here to judge that. We all crave love, to be seen, to be wanted. But if you're always reacting to every glance, every playful tease, you're living like someone waiting to be chosen, not someone with the power to choose. And that's why this sentence appears as a boundary, not to push people away, but to protect something valuable within you, your worth. I'm not that easy. Short, soft, but full of weight. The story from Seattle. One Saturday afternoon at a local artisan market in Seattle, I witnessed a small moment with deep meaning. Lily, a young oil painter, was chatting with Ethan, a man nearly 10 years older, with a simple look and a steady gaze. She teased him. "You seem like the type who falls for a smile. One wink and you're hooked, huh?" Ethan chuckled gently, looked straight into her eyes, without flinching, without rushing, and said, "I'm not that easy." No arrogance, no sarcasm, just a soft message, as if to say, "I know you're charming, but that's not enough." "My attention isn't a giveaway prize," Lily laughed, but her smile had changed. No longer the "I control this game" kind, but the "I've just met someone who doesn't play by the usual rules." The difference between flirting and self-respect: you can be polite, you can be fun, but if you're easily swept up every time someone taps your loneliness, your allure will start to fade. Because true attraction doesn't come from being wanted, it comes from knowing you are worth something. When a man knows how to say no, he makes every yes more valuable. "I'm not that easy" is your way of saying, "I'm not cold, but I'm not easily manipulated. I'm not arrogant, but I don't need to be approved to feel worthy. I'm not afraid of love, but I won't cheapen myself to be loved. When should you say this? When she's teasing you, when she's pretending to control the dynamic, when you sense yourself being pulled into passivity by a glance, a touch, or a sweet line. That's when you pause. Smile, hold your gaze, and drop the line like an anchor. I'm not that easy. She may laugh, she may push back, but deep down she knows you have standards. You don't bend for little games, and that is incredibly attractive. Personal reflection. I think one of the most powerful images a man can create is not that of the reckless bad boy, nor the endlessly pleasing Prince Charming. It's the image of a man with an open heart, but who never drops his standards. He knows when to step forward, but also when to remain still. He knows how to love, but won't be ruled by the fear of being left. I'm not that easy is how you stand firm in your energy, without needing to prove anything or act superior. This isn't a wall, it's a mirror. The beauty of this sentence is, when you dare to say it, you don't push her away. You hold up a mirror. Is she really interested or just playing? Does she want to know you or just win a challenge? Is she ready to invest emotionally or just waiting for you to hand everything over? That's when a natural sorting begins. Those who came out of curiosity will fade, but the ones who stay will stay with respect. Conclusion. The sentence, "I'm not that easy," might sound like a light joke, but in truth, it's a quiet declaration. I'm not afraid to be alone. I don't need attention born from shallowness. And if you want to approach me, come with truth, not with games. Because a man can be admired for his looks, his career, or his talent. But the man a woman remembers is the one who knows he himself is a value not easily accessed. Part 6. When you speak the right way, you no longer chase, you're remembered. We live in an age of noise. Everyone's talking, everyone's explaining, everyone's trying to impress as fast as possible. In that sea of people, the ones who are remembered the longest aren't the loudest, but those who speak less and strike deep. They don't throw bait. They don't chase. They don't strain to prove their worth. Because each time they speak, their words don't just echo through the air. They stay in the listener's heart. Attraction doesn't come from the number of words, but from the energy behind each one. The story from Denver, Colorado. Michael is a 41-year-old man living in the suburbs of Denver. He's divorced, has a young son, and runs a small landscaping business. Not someone who stands out in a crowd, not the center of attention, not social media charming. He met Sarah, a former journalist, introspective and quietly strong, at a photography exhibition. They stood next to each other, looking at a black and white photo of a wooden bridge lost in snowy woods. No one said anything. Sarah spoke first. "I once stood on a bridge like this when I was 24. It was the first time I walked away from something I thought I couldn't live without." Michael didn't answer right away. He looked at the photo for a few more seconds, then softly said, "I like the way you walked forward, even when you didn't know where it would lead." Sarah looked at him, not surprised but quieted, not because what he said was profound, but because in his eyes, in the calm rhythm of his words, she knew he wasn't trying to impress. He was speaking something he truly felt. She never forgot that sentence, and she never forgot the man standing beside that photo. You're remembered not for tactics, but for your state. Here's what many men don't realize. You don't make an impression by what you say, but by the presence you say it from. If you say, "I like how you live true to yourself," but deep down you're afraid she won't like you, your words will be hollow. But if you say it from a place of peace, no rush, no need for reaction, your words will land. And when they land, they stay. When a man is fully present, he doesn't try to be attractive. He becomes the attraction. What happens when you stop chasing? It's not because you're arrogant. It's not because you're playing hard to get. It's because you finally understand. Your value doesn't lie in who you reach. It lies in who wants to reach you and why. You stop asking, what can I do to get noticed? Instead, you ask, what do I truly believe in? What kind of connection do I want? Am I living as myself or just a version that's easy to consume? Personal reflection. I've met men who speak very little, but when they do, the whole room falls quiet. Not because they hold power, but because they carry depth. They don't ask questions to get answers. They ask questions to invite others to go deeper. They don't compliment women to be loved. They compliment because they see beauty and can't help but name it. And because of that, they're remembered. Not as some ideal man, but as a real man. A message for you if you've read this far. Maybe you're trying to become more attractive, more connected, more loved. I understand. That's a very human desire. But remember, you don't need to change your essence to be unforgettable. You just need to let go of the rushing, the performing, the chasing, and return to the original state of a man who knows himself. When you speak from that state, every word carries weight. When you walk from that state, every step leaves a trace. And when you live from that state, people will want to enter your world without needing an invitation. Conclusion: in the end, here's what you need to remember. The man who is remembered the longest isn't the one who speaks the most, but the one who lives with intention. And if you train yourself to embody that presence, sincerity, calm, you won't need to chase anyone. Because people will start to ask themselves, why did that man touch me so deeply with just one sentence? And they won't forget you, not because you tried to impress, but because you were real, and in this world, that's the rarest thing of all. Final message: attraction isn't in the words, but in the ones speaking them. You could memorize hundreds of clever lines. You could read dozens of dating books, watch hundreds of videos on how to attract. But if inside you're still a man lost within himself, then no matter what you say, you won't truly reach anyone. On the other hand, if you're a man who knows who he is, without showing off, without needing permission to exist, then just one sentence from you is enough for someone to remember you for a lifetime. Or it's awesome. Attraction doesn't come from what you say. It comes from where you're speaking it from. When you speak from calm, people listen. When you speak from respect, people feel. When you speak without seeking approval, people believe. And when you live as someone who is selective, deep and principled, you don't need to chase anyone. The right ones will step into your world. Not because you tried, but because you're attractive by nature. So don't learn how to say things to impress. Learn how to be so present. You can't be ignored. In the end, people won't remember you because you tried to be loved. They'll remember you because being around you made them feel more real with themselves. And that is the greatest form of attraction. Not loud, not flashy, but quiet, profound, and unforgettable. If this video touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel. Daily Stoic. Strong mindset, not just to get more content like this, but to help build a space for men who live with depth, value, and no longer need to chase. Share this video with a brother who's lost direction. Who knows, one short line might be all it takes for him to stop, reflect, and start living differently. Because you know, men don't need more cheap advice. They need truth. And sometimes truth comes through you when you choose to send something meaningful. And if you want me to continue making content like this, leave a comment. Share a line you once heard or said that someone never forgot. We're not here to say more. We're here to live true. And living true is the most attractive thing of all.